Hello Internet, and welcome to my live reaction for Eden Zero, chapter 192. When we last left our heroes, we didn't really focus too much on Rebecca, as she just sort of went into Clown's nightmare world or whatever, and Clown made some cryptic comment about killing Rebecca not being part of his programming. He zapped Pino and Happy, and we sort of left that to head back to Shiki, who's still sort of dealing with what he's starting to think about Ziggy. But then, I guess Killer's program acknowledges the fight is over. Shiki's sent back to the real world where Valkyrie's fighting Brigandine, and Shiki gets new memories, this time revealing that Brigandine at some point knew Valkyrie. Brigandine, much like Wizard before him, denies, and Shiki, before he can leave to go fight Ziggy for real, is dragged into Killer and Wise's dimension, strapped to a table. And with that, we focus on Wise, who is just making his way through this hospital, being chased by zombie nurses, until he starts to recognize the hospital, and he reaches a room he knows very well. And like I've been predicting since we first saw the hospital, it's the room where his mom died. So that's where we leave off, him seeing his mother's face. And with that said, let's dive right on in chapter 192, Wise versus Killer. We seem to have moved out of, I think, the sort of childhood cover photos we've been seeing for a while, as this is just Pino and, like, you know, a trio of, like, baby ducklings behind her at a crosswalk, kind of like Abbey Road style. But we pick up where we left off, and like I said, I don't think we should trust Wise's mom here any more than we trusted the witch that showed up in Fake Granbell, but I also don't think Wise is at a place where he can, like, actually fight his mom, because he's just trembling here. Mom. And his mom looks at him, oh, Wise, see how you've grown. And Wise is just trembling there. He's not having a good time. Come closer. Let me get a good look at you. And Wise just approaches her, and his mom says, oh, get rid of that grumpy scowl. It's ruining your handsome face. And Wise just frustratedly, we can see his, like, angry mouth. This is some sick joke. And his mom looks at him confused. And he slams his gun into, like, the wall. You're just a hologram. Okay. Killer shows up saying the exact same thing I was thinking. Aw, I didn't expect you to figure it out so soon. But yeah, I was wrong last week. Wise does figure it out very quickly. He's not swayed. And Wise turns back to him as his mother's hologram, like, fades away. And Wise just pulls up his gun. And Killer goes on, but you're thinking she's dead. She can't be here. And still the sight of her shakes you up, because that's how humans are. They're weak. And Wise counters, yeah, that's what we call emotion. Ever heard of it? Guess not. Your functions are lower level than the shining stars. So I do like this sort of, you know, part of the conflict here is human emotion a weakness or a strength? The series is very clearly on the side of it being a strength. But the Dark Stars are, especially Killer here, sees that as an emotion, or as a weakness. I remember, you know, when I expressed some confusion on how, you know, we can see how Sister the Life and Killer the Death and Witch the Shield and Wizard the Spear and Valkyrie the Sword and Brigandine the Armor, you can see how all those are parallels. But Hermit the Mind and Killer the Brain, I think, I might have those backwards, that seemed like the same thing to me. And someone commented a while back on how maybe Killer, who I think is the brain, is more logical while the mind is more emotional. And that does seem to be right here. That maybe is what we're getting at with Killer here. He has no time for things like emotions or anything. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, they start to attack. Wise shoots this, like, flurry of bullets at Killer, but Killer spawns this, like, ether shield to defend himself. And Wise just comments, a protection matrix? And then as he's still shooting, he, like, slams into the wall at his side and pulls on some wires, his ether gear activating. And I think, for a second, when I first saw this panel a second ago, I thought that might be Killer doing something to Wise. I think it's Wise doing something towards Killer. Because, yeah, the next panel we get is the wall exploding next to Killer. And Killer comments, wow, real-time modding, huh? But this is my dimension. And he does some more button presses. I'm not going to let you do things your way. And we're seeing another kind of transition coming towards Wise now. as they're no longer in a hospital room, just in sort of a cube. I guess here there's no technology for Wise to easily take over. And Wise comments, "What? Empty space." And Killer taunts, "Your power is dependent on your environment. The more machines around, the greater your strength. But with no machines, your power is useless. You didn't do all your homework." No, Wise tosses his gun aside. "You didn't do all your homework, kid." And he activates that watch. "I have more than one battle style. Arsenal land mode." This, I think, is the first time we've seen Arsenal post time skip. And so I'm curious if Wise can keep in this mode longer than he could in the past. Weiss cannon! And he shoots at Killer, breaking through the shield. Gwah! He broke through my protection matrix. But then Killer spawns this army of gun drones that start shooting at Wise. Assault bit laser! And Wise jumps out of the way, does this sort of backflip away from the bullets, and then ignores them and goes straight for Killer. "Sorry, but you bots are outmatched against me." And Killer gets the sudden fear. You wouldn't. You can't mod me. Mortal Crash! And he just, I don't think is that a mod ability, or is he just throwing all of his strength at Killer? I will say, Wise's ether lines are floating off of him. Like Overdrive. But Killer's not done yet. Activating protection code. And Wise thinks, what? I can't modify him? Okay, so Killer's got something that stops him from being modded by Machino Maker. And Killer comments, analysis complete. And we see Wise shocked through, Killer's HUD there. Jammer code. And he seems to be stripping the Arsenal suit. Whoa, my Arsenal suit! Executing weapon-generating script. Assassin's blade. And he makes a cut across Wise's now, open chest. Wise screams, "Gwah!" And Killer just grins and just keeps slashing and slashing and slashing at Wise over and over again. "You're finished!" And then Wise slips into Overdrive there, which I don't think we've seen this part of. He used Overdrive in his fight with Nase, I think was the name, back in the Alley War. But I don't remember him having these Doc Ock tentacles behind him. That seemed like a new thing. But Killer reacts Overdrive, and Wise turns his arm into a bomb, I think. Metallica explosion, and he punches at it's seemingly primarily a punch, a very powerful punch, but it doesn't have some more explosive damage than just physical impact. Gwah! And Wise counters, "No, you're finished." And Killer smirks, and this tube shoots down in front of Wise. And we see there's a woman in it. Oh. That real? Because Wise's reaction is, "Mom! Oh, please. As if I'd fall for that same hologram trick." But Killer goes on, "You really think that's what this is?" And that gets Wise's attention. "Have you considered that maybe your mother is still alive?" Wise is... He's pausing for a moment. And I don't... this could be another trick on Killer's part. Though it's weird to kind of... we only have another page after this one I'm about to start. And it'd be weird for the series, for Eden Zero to end 2 chapters in a row with the cliffhanger of, is Wise's mom here? Even if this one would be a much more likely cliffhanger than last week's. Your mother died from an unknown cause. It was actually Draken's life absorption device that killed her. But you and the doctors couldn't have known that. What did they do with your allegedly dead mother's body? And Wise tells him, on Norma, we returned them to the earth. They buried her, right? What if they didn't? What if the doctors switched her body out and secretly dissected it to find the true cause of her malady? And is it possible that during this process, they miraculously managed to breathe life back into her? The more Killer talks, the weirder this sounds. Unless there's some grand conspiracy going on around Norma 50 years ago, I don't see why they would have kept this hidden. But Wise thinks, no, it's not possible. And Killer agrees, of course not. So I'm sure you'll have no problem if I destroy this capsule. And Wise reacts, no, don't! And Killer grins, thinking that he's won. And that is human weakness, my dear Wise. You will never defeat me now. And that's where we leave off. Okay. So, I briefly brought up, at the beginning of the fight, right, the idea of, a lot of what's going on in this fight especially is the idea of emotion versus logic, right? Is it better to, act fully, logically, efficiently, or whatever, or is it better to have all these human emotions? And as the fight goes on, that's very much what this fight is boiling down to. What the whole thing with Wise's mom here at the end is boiling down to. Logically, nothing Killer is saying is making a lick of sense. I don't believe this is actually Wise's mom. I don't. The more Killer talks, the more I'm like, this is fake. None of this makes any sense. The doctor, maybe the doctors would switch her body out and secretly dissect it for the true cause of her malady. That sounds like a lot. It sounds unbelievable, but I guess it's supposedly possible. But there is no reason they would manage to breathe life back into her after, that's not really possible as far as we know, bringing people back from the dead. But also, there is no reason they would keep that secret if they did, right? That doesn't make any sense. And also, if they were able to save her, why is she still caught up in this capsule? There's so many holes in this, it's hard to, believe Killer. But that's not really the point. Not the point that Killer's making. That, if Wise were smart, he would be aware it's fake. Which is one of the story reasons I think it's fake, is that, that's the exact kind of game Killer would play. You lost. If you had thought logically, you would realize your mom was already dead, and you could have killed me at any point. That seems more in line with Killer than actually your mom was alive the whole time, and I was telling you the truth. Logically, you were right to not kill me, and emotionally, that doesn't really feel right for what Killer's going for here. So I do think that this is all a hologram, it's all an act. And so I'm curious what's going to happen here, because clearly something will, obviously Wise is not dying here. Obviously, Wise will win out. Wise will, still, I think thematically, Wise will have a whole arc of Wise, falling into a sort of, emotionless, logic-based efficiency that ends up causing conflict within the crew if he does end up killing Killer without dealing with what's going on with his mom right now. Or he will beat Killer while still holding on to his emotions. And I don't quite know how that will happen. Unless, the hologram of his mom still has some bit of his mom's consciousness in there somehow, and she can tell him it's all right. And that all sounds like a stretch to me, so I don't really think we're going that route. Either way, the rest of the chapter is largely just a fun little fight. It does feel like it's really only there to set up this final moment. We see Arsenal, we see Wise's overdrive, we see him being kind of even with Killer the whole time, or even a little stronger than Killer, to show why Killer would go this route, why he needs this little, crisis of conscience here with the definitely fake mom, to get Wise to, not fight him. So we'll see what comes of that next week. All in all, a perfectly good fight leading to what looks to be a really interesting kind of choice for Wise. And I'm really curious how Machin was gonna tie all this together. But with that said, I'm going to leave this video off here. Hope you'll enjoy the chapter and the video itself. If you did, feel free to drop me a like or subscribe or, do whatever makes you happy, And as always, your life is your own, okay? Bye!